Good evening. Welcome to Discipleship Session 60.
Are you serious?
60.
We've done this 60 times?
60 times.
Wow.
Probably actually more times than that, but we have recorded it and put it online 60
We're like
times.
as old as your mom now.
Ugh.
Just kidding. She's not that old. She hasn't reached that age yet.
Plateau.
Plateau?
Next year, though. Bringing it.
Next year.
I did say that out loud. Into a microphone.
For all the world to
internet.
hear.
For all to know.
That's fine.
All right. Well, if you missed last week, you missed a good one. It was really good. Chelsea got her floaties on, was ready to go. I am so excited about this one.
He won't stop talking about it. I'm kind of annoyed because he's talked about it all day.
Now, saying that, if you have been with us on Sunday mornings, I've covered Job for 4 of the last 5 weeks. The only week I didn't was Mother's Day.
But you know what he told me? He said, I haven't talked about any of this.
I haven't talked about any of this on Sunday mornings.
I'm so excited.
So, if it gives you any indication as to
how much there is.
There is so much.
I knew it.
So much. So,
my Bible's upside
we really don't have time to do a review because we've got to get into it. So next week you can be ready for a review.
Okay.
Because we need to get caught back up. But how many times have you heard the story of Job?
I mean, a lot in the last 5 weeks, but...
Well, okay. But Job, pretty popular teaching, preaching.
I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about the woe is me kind of...
Yeah, not. It's not as popular in kids ministry, right, Miss Helen? Not as common in kids ministry doing Job, yes? It's... No. Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not common. Correct should be the right term, not right. Yeah.
That you said yes. Anyway.
I don't remember doing it in kids ministry. Important. It is very much youth and young adult and adult.
I mean, really, if I think about Job and my knowledge of it from before now, it would be Job lost everything, his wife turned back, pillar of salt, the end.
That's Lot. Lot's wife turned pillar of salt.
See, then I don't know anything about Job at all.
Job did lose everything.
Listen, they both have 3 letters, and the middle letter is O, okay?
So what's the point of Job?
So I have not learned.
Job is this long discourse.
I haven't learned anything from this.
One of my favorite things.
But did Lot lose everything?
He did Lot lose everything? No.
No, Sodom and Gomorrah just...
Yeah. God rescued Lot.
But he lost his wife.
Yeah, remember...
But Job lost everybody, even his wife.
Everybody except for his wife.
Oh,
God was benevolent. Let him keep his wife.
Yeah, why did he...
He's so benevolent and let him keep his wife that his wife said, just curse God and die.
And then she turned into a pillar of salt.
Hooray.
Okay, no. Fine. She had a what? I think so.
Okay, so that's a great point. It didn't matter what God did to Job. He still served him. And this is suffering is the point. Right? Isn't that the point of the story? We can end this video early. This is a story about Job's suffering, the end.
Side note. We were working today, and there was a song that comes on and talks about how you're the God of suffering, the son of suffering. And
yeah,
we were like, what is going... We're going to have to look this song up.
Yeah.
Because what in the world...
It's a modern Christian worship song.
Maybe it was about Job.
Maybe.
I don't know. I doubt it. But
anyway. So let's do a little setup here before we get into all of it.
I can't believe I was talking about Lot.
Yeah.
I think I'm up to date now.
We get this story. It's Job.
Is there more to this story than Job's suffering?
Maybe. I mean, it's a great story about suffering.
I just kind of feel like it doesn't answer our questions.
Great.
No real resolutions.
You're like, what? It is a strange story, though. And there is no real answers. I appreciate you just reading off the board.
You don't have to call me out like that. I looked very interviewing.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't know.
It is a very strange story because God and Satan have this conversation, and then God's like, "Hey, have you seen my servant Job?" And we're like, "Wait, what?" This is a great question. And then
why was Satan there in the beginning?
And then he comes back, and they have another conversation.
Yeah. I was saying it in the microphone because nobody heard her.
Yeah. So why is Satan there? And then God doesn't show up.
The second time? What?
For a long time, God doesn't show up. We get this story about Job, but before Job is introduced, we get this interaction between God and Satan, and then Job's introduced, and then God and Satan, and then calamity, and then Job loses everything. Wife tells him, curse God and die, and terrible life, sick, all of these things. And then his friends show up, and they sit there quietly, and then they show up to do all the right things, but then they start talking, and it's like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. And there's this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And God is like silent in this whole thing. And then this young guy shows up, and he says something, and Job says something, and then God shows up. And when God shows up, one of my favorite verses in all of Job happens. God says, dress for action like a man, Job. I'll ask, and you can answer me. And it's like, okay, put your cup on, put your helmet on, shoulder pads, get yourself ready for battle here. So that's how I hear it. Like, get ready for a game. Put your game face on. Get all your protective gear on, because this is about full on. Anyway, so then I'm a baseball guy. That's
baseball
cleats.
Players don't wear shoulder pads.
I'm just going full
football.
Cover it all.
Okay.
Anyway. So, and then God goes on this discourse to Job. Funny thing is, he never tells Job any of the backstory of why this came about. Doesn't ever actually
why he was being
like he was being
why
tested,
he was going through
or like
suffering.
why he was allowed to go through this stuff. Doesn't answer that question for him. But eventually, when God's done, he restores Job, and Job has more after than he did before. But like, strange stuff. What's up? Right. Yeah, he loses everything except for his health. And God says the same thing practically. The reason he didn't tell Job is that he wanted to test his own servant. But he didn't even tell him at the end. That's what I'm saying. Like, did he? When we're tested by the Lord, he doesn't necessarily say, I'm going to do this. Right. Conversation with God to find out, why did you do this? And that's an interesting discourse, in my opinion. Like, I did ask the question kind of tongue in cheek, like, well, did he pass the test? Pink shirt?
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't even know who Job is. We've learned that tonight. So I have no idea.
So we don't really get a resolution. We just see that the end of the story. So a few observations that we need to make about the story. Okay. The first one, Job is a drama.
Queen?
Old drama. No, not drama queen.
Okay.
Drama like theater, like a play.
Oh.
There are parts, and people play their parts, and it's a whole story. You, as a theater major, lots of drama, not in your life, but you've been in a lot of dramas.
There's drama.
Streetcar Named Desire.
I was never in that.
But weren't you involved in it?
No.
I thought you made the...
No.
How do I remember that then?
I have no idea. Never in that one.
MAME. You were definitely in MAME.
Okay, but my dad told you that
one. No. Importance of Being Earnest.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going to stop.
Probably a good idea.
So
I could list them all, but I won't.
You've been in several.
Right.
Had parts.
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody know their part?
Eventually,
yes.
Yep.
Can it be? Is it a story that can be retold?
Yes.
Is it common for people to adapt them and adjust them to different styles and scenes and?
Yeah, depending on your director, for sure.
So, something for us to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You get this ancient tale about suffering. How long have people been suffering?
Eons.
Yes, for eons.
Since Adam and Eve.
Probably.
Definitely.
Definitely. Like at least since Cain and Abel, but probably.
Well, I don't know.
Well, one of them died, so.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of this going on. Interesting thing. I know you've heard me speak about the midrash, Jewish midrash. This is a midrash is a teaching that it would be a rabbinical teaching that isn't necessarily specifically given in the word, but one of the rules about the midrash is it can't contradict the scripture.
Okay.
So,
which is important to note, I think, because you just spout that off, like, the study of the midrash, and people are like, well, what does that mean?
Okay. These are some fun ones this week.
This is why he's so excited.
I am, yes. Okay.
I can't
Job
wait.
loses everything except
his wife.
And his wife tells him to curse God and die.
Right.
The Midrash teaches that Job has a specific wife. And her name is Dinah. Anybody know where Dinah is referenced in the Bible?
I'm thinking about that.
No, not a prophetess. It's from the book of Genesis. She is a daughter of not Saul. Saul is not in the book of Genesis.
Well, I don't remember who's in the book of Genesis.
It's
Abraham.
Yeah, it would
lots in
not
Genesis.
Lot. Yes. Basically,
all his kids are gone.
You get the flood story, you get Abram, Isaac, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
From 11 and a half to chapter 50, it's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph.
Okay.
So she's in that family.
Okay.
Abram had how many kids?
1.
So it's not Abram's kid.
Correct.
Isaac had how many kids?
2.
2 boys.
Oh, we're really multiplying.
So not his kids.
Correct.
Jacob had
a lot.
12 boys.
He didn't have any girls.
He sure did.
That's what I thought.
At least one.
Dinah. Found her.
Dinah is committed.
First girl, and here we are with her tragic story.
Dinah is committed to Shechem.
Who's that?
He's a guy, a person that is acceptable. Well, somebody steals her. She gets raped.
Wow.
And they come back, the men of Shechem come back and say, we want your daughters, your sisters.
Say that to who?
To the family
Of Jacob?
Of Jacob.
Time out.
But Jacob's not there.
Where did he go?
So it's the brothers who get told. And what did the brothers tell them? If you're going to be one of us, what's the sign of us?
Circumcision.
You all got to be circumcised. And then while they were still sore, it says, they go and kill them all and bring their sister home.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that story.
The Midrash teaches that this Dinah is the wife of Job.
So that means Job was like way a long time ago.
So, yes. So, a lot of people...
So Job and Lot could have known each other.
Could have. I like how you're trying to keep your way back to Lot. So the Midrash teaches that Job was a real person.
Okay.
That is a story about his life, and that his wife was Dinah. And so we kind of get a little bit of insight. If we accept that, we kind of get a little bit of insight as to why she might be a little frustrated or carry a little bit of testiness, bitterness towards God. I've already been through this mistreatment once, and now here we are. God's restored it all, and now it's all falling apart.
Well, I think we think about how sad Job was, but it's not like his wife didn't lose all of her children.
Correct. Which is a bigger deal because she was, like, as a woman, having come from a family who struggled with fertility, and God blesses her and all of these things.
And she loses all of her servants and her animals and her home.
And all her kids.
That's what I said already. Yeah.
Which is a bigger deal for her because that's her value.
I agree.
Because if something happens and her husband dies, her kids who are her security have all already gone too. And she's already been down this road before.
Why?
Having been raped and left as damaged goods. And God redeemed her and restored her in a household
Well, then why wouldn't she view that as he would do it again?
I don't know that you ever... If you've gone through hardship and God has restored you and you're going back through hardship again, I'm not sure that the experience of the first restoration actually gives you more faith to think that it's going to happen again. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I agree with that. You want to restate that?
No.
I think it's really good for people online.
You say it.
Like, we go through hardship. We get to the other side, and most of the time our response is, I don't want to ever deal with that again. I don't want to go through that again. And
we want to put it out of our minds.
Yeah, the victory on the other side we're thankful for, and we will use it as part of our testimony, but it is not an invitation of, hey, put me back through that. I would volunteer to go do that again. That's just not what
No, but do. Instead we should be, instead of saying, I don't want to go through it again, the finishing of his statement was, thank you, Lord.
Yes.
For bringing me through.
So, another thing that I want to bring up from the Midrash that gives us some perspective about who Job is. Back in Exodus. Beginning of the book of Exodus, who's our central focus, our central figure?
Moses.
I
wanted to say Noah just so that you would be like, are you kidding me? But no, Moses.
Did his wife turn into... Anyway.
I was never married. I'm just kidding. He was married.
But what happens to Moses? Tell me a quick synopsis of Moses. He lives 40 years.
There is no quick synopsis of Moses. Moses' life is like the most detailed story we could possibly tell.
It is, yeah.
He's put in a basket. I mean, let's start there. Found in the Nile River by the Pharaoh's daughter. I mean...
He's raised in Egypt.
He's raised in the Pharaoh's house.
For 40 years.
Yeah, I don't know that detail, but yes.
Then he makes his way out into the desert.
Correct.
Running for his life. Runs into a guy.
Named.
Jethro.
Yep. I was going to say it. You took it. You stole my thunder.
Okay, Jethro and marries one of Jethro's daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Lives in Jethro's house for
I don't know the answer to
40
that.
years.
Okay. Then he goes back.
Then he goes back.
Let my people go.
Yes. How many
plagues, fire, hailstones?
Yes.
Frogs.
How many magicians served Pharaoh?
3.
The Midrash teaches 3. The Bible doesn't actually give a number. The Midrash teaches 3.
I didn't know until you told me earlier that the Pharaoh had magicians that served him.
So let's talk about who those 3 magicians are, according to the Midrash. One is Balaam.
Who's that?
Story in Old Testament. Anybody? Balaam? He has a donkey that talks to him.
Oh, yeah.
He's told to, he is paid to curse the people of God, and he can't curse them. And then he's going on his way, and his donkey keeps turning aside, and he goes to beat him, and his donkey tells him to stop. And he's like, whoa, and turns around and realizes that there is an angel of the Lord with the sword in the way, and his donkey keeps turning. See, anyway, Balaam. So Balaam is one of the magicians.
Okay.
The second magician is
Jethro.
Deal with that however you want. By Jethro, we mean Jethro, father-in-law of Moses.
Like, if he is a magician for the Pharaoh, then what is he doing in the desert?
Yeah. Third magician.
Didn't you say it was female?
Nope, male.
Oh, I don't remember.
Job.
Oh, wait. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So according to the Midrash, Job is the third magician.
I think what's confusing me more than anything else
that serves Pharaoh
is the fact that I don't ever place Job in the time of Moses. Also, would not place Jacob's daughter in that time.
Uh-huh. Either. She would definitely be in that time. Because Joseph is a son of Jacob. I mean, so take that for what it is. There's so much.
Yeah, I know. But see, I think the confusing part for me is that we tell these stories so individually that I can't layer them back together.
So
I'm struggling with that.
This would all fall under, like, those 3 people serving Pharaoh would happen prior to Moses showing up. But they all 3 served Pharaoh
at the same time.
So I don't know if it was definitely at the same time, because Dinah and her happening would be 400 years before.
See, that's why I need to
400 years before.
We don't have to cover that at this point. That's why I need to overlay it with each other, because then I can understand it better. But let's talk about why.
Because the Dinah story happened before they were in Egypt.
Who?
Before the family of Jacob was in Egypt. Now, Joseph was probably in slavery at the time.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, anyway, please.
So I think that informs a couple of things. One thing that it does inform in this Midrash conversation that I think we have to wrestle with is Job isn't Jewish. He's not Hebrew. Job's a pagan.
Where did he even come from?
He's a magician. Which would give rise to his awareness of different things.
Does it say in the beginning of the book?
Let's look together.
Land of Uz.
From the land of Uz. There you go.
Not the land of Oz. Don't be confused with that.
Uz, not Oz.
And that man was blameless and upright, and one who feared God and shunned evil. Well, if he shunned evil, then why was he a magician?
There you go. Midrash. Telling you. So.
And was he a dark magic, or was he just like, hey, look, I saw this woman in half, but there was like a trick to it, you know?
Did he shun evil after serving
know. It doesn't
Pharaoh?
say.
So this is, I don't want to get lost in this, but there's this, I'm telling you, there's so much to the story of Job that we don't know. And we study it. Huh? He left Egypt at some point. If his wife was Dinah, he was gone from Egypt before Moses was born. 400 years. Like, I'm telling you. Yeah.
And also, people lived so many more years, and so that throws me off. Like, I can't give it a 100-year timeline.
I'll tell you that. They did not. By this point, 125 years old was it. Anyway, so we have a drama. Involves these characters. I don't want to get lost in all the midrash, but I think it's great fodder and thought-provoking conversation. Job being a pagan really messes with some people.
Why does that matter?
This is a Jewish book. Like, I think we immediately associate Job and his faithfulness and his uprightness and go, well, he's a Hebrew. But nowhere does it tell us that he's Hebrew. It just says that he makes sacrifices. And maybe he's introduced to the Hebrew God because of Dinah. And so he's making sacrifices and going through rituals to all the gods to check all the boxes, which would be a very Egyptian thing. Mm-hmm. So, he lives upright, has all these things. His friends come and they sit with him. Do you remember what we called that?
It's on the board.
I know it's on the board, but we participated in it a few weeks ago.
Shiva.
Sitting Shiva. This is a Jewish practice. It is a Hebrew thing. What happens?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. When friends are in grief, the Jewish habit is to come and sit with them. And what does that entail?
Literal sitting.
Sitting. You come, you sit down, you shut up. You are there. It's not about you. It's not about what you can do. It's not about offering help. It's not about organizing suggestions. It's not about problem solving. It's not about
we know.
Giving advice.
It's about literally nothing.
You sit and you are quiet. You do not speak. You are there in their presence. You only speak if spoken to.
Right.
This is sitting Shiva. As long as that person is willing to have you around and is willing to sit with you, you sit with them. You drop everything and sit. And we did it for like 8 or 10 minutes. And
it felt like a really long time.
I will be honest. As a younger man, I would not have had the willingness, I'll say it that way, to say, hey, in the middle of our service here, we're just going to spend 10 minutes not doing anything. No music playing, nothing going on. We're just going to sit here together quietly. So they show up. They're going to sit Shiva. And then for some reason they open their mouth. And
not following the rules.
Yeah. Third thing I want to talk about in the setup to this thing, we have this story here. We're in the exilic prophets. Exilic, what did we say? How's the right way to? The exilic prophets. You can say it out loud. It's okay. So
my finger was in my watch, and exilic.
Thank you. So we're placing it here. What are some other options for where this should be placed?
Well, you said earlier wisdom.
Wisdom literature. It's definitely, that's probably the most popular choice for where to place it in the wisdom literature, but we did not cover it with the wisdom literature. I don't know where else. Most people would tell you this is maybe one of the oldest stories in the Bible. That it dates itself back to around the time of Abram.
Well, now that I feel like, now that I know how it can overlap, like how all the layers are together, then that makes sense that it could be the oldest story.
And so, because suffering's been around for a minute.
Yeah, a couple minutes.
For a couple minutes, at least. We were talking way back, right? So, some of the challenges to these contexts, for it to be ancient, an ancient tale that dates back to like Moses and Abraham, or even before them, or for it even to be wisdom literature and to be around the time of Solomon, the intentional references like to the Pleiades and Orion, which would have been references to zodiac to zodiac signs, doesn't fit the time frame or their understanding of those things or their references to those things either. Their references to the beasts and what they're named, to Leviathan and those type of things, would not have been referenced. They're almost 400 or 500 years ahead of time for them to be referenced that way. Specifically, the thing that really messes with it a lot is the personification of Satan. Satan as a personified figure doesn't come around until the Hellenistic time period. When is the Hellenistic time period? What is that? Can you kind of give us? I referenced that immediately right here. We've talked about it on Sunday nights with the youth, and we're going to get to it with this group of people in a few weeks. By a few weeks, I mean probably in the fall with session 3.
I know it was Hellenistic is a lot like how we live now with medicine and say again. Like the Romans or the Greek period. But
Greeks and Romans. Greeks introduced Hellenism.
But it was just very structured society.
Yes. Very people-centered.
Yes.
Instead of God-centered. And this was the transition. So for that to be referenced at a time when you're Abraham, Moses, or even Solomon, you're almost a millennia ahead of that being.
So is this what you were talking about with the different directors?
Yes.
Well, I said directors, but.
So it wouldn't be uncommon for us to have a tale.
Tale.
Yes. Or drama. And it to be acted out and tell a story. And over time, situations change and we modify that story or that play and we reproduce it with a little bit more emphasis. And then time goes by. I mean, how many times has Robin Hood been made?
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Like there's the original Robin Hood, and then you've got Men in Tights. You've got the
cartoon
version.
That's the one I think of.
Abe Lincoln. Anyway, that's Men in Tights, if you didn't know. Anyway. And then you've got, yeah. Who was in one of the most recent ones was
Gerard Butler.
no, not Gerard Butler. Who's the guy from I've drawn a blank. Russell Crowe? Was Russell Crowe in it? I'm thinking one of the newest ones. Yeah, they've done a bunch.
There are a bunch, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We own one, and I'm pretty sure Russell Crowe's in it. Anyway, not important. Much like that, the story evolves, it changes, the settings may be the same. So I'm going to say, there's my opinion, it's all three. It is an ancient tale.
I was like, all three what? I don't.
It is an ancient
We've
drama
talked a lot since
story that has its
where
roots.
It fits, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has its roots all the way back from the time of Moses. They were telling the story about Job. And then someone like Solomon or the sons of Korah get a hold of it and go, hey, let's infuse it with all this wisdom and conversation. And then later on, you get these people who are in exile, and they put this prologue and this epilogue in it and put a few other pieces of information in it. Now, that makes some people uncomfortable, this modification over time. It's still inspired scripture. For me, I'm not overly concerned about what God did to mold it into what it is now. I am only focused on God breathed it and organized it through many different people to organize it to speak to us today. And so I don't really get caught up on that. If that's a problem for you, I think that is important. Yeah, there's not an author assigned, and so the message being the valuable piece. And in this, the last thing we want to talk about before we jump into the rest of it is last week we were where? In what book of the Bible?
Daniel.
And we said that Daniel is the legendary what?
Today.
Double
chiasm?
Yes.
Wanting from
the
me.
legendary double chiasm.
I don't remember the word legendary being spoken last week. I'll have to go back and watch it, but
it's the legendary double chiasm.
Okay.
So we had a chiasm and another chiasm, and we put those two chiasms together, and we get this.
We stacked them up.
Bigger chiasm.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So we get the double chiasm in Daniel. This week, in the book of Job, what might Job be?
Oh, it might be the most legendary, honestly.
You think Job might be a chiasm?
I think the Bible is full of them.
The Bible is full of them. There are tons of them.
And with Job being as long as it is, I can imagine there's one hidden in there somewhere.
Job is like the mother of all chiasms.
See, that's why Daniel is not legendary.
So much so, you know how to say this word right here? How do you say periscope without the S?
Pericope?
No.
Escape. It's funny. It's spelled just kind of It's spelled just like escape.
Pericope.
I was close.
Pretty close.
I was pretty close.
Pericope. A pericope is sections that are chiasms.
They all come together
And form
a larger chiasm.
a larger chiasm. Job has 25.
That to me is legendary. Daniel with 2, meh.
Job has 25, at least 25 chiasms that form together to form a bigger chiasm. This is like
Legendary.
chiasms upon
Just say
chiasms
it.
upon chiasms. It's legendary.
Thank you.
So the thing, it's a magical. Anyway, so if this was organized by a person, if the writing of this book was organized by a person, and they somehow found the time to put this all together in order for this treasure trove of chiasms to all be put together without the inspiration of God, it would be some type of supernatural feat, right?
Well, supernatural is with the Lord, so I don't know what it would be, but
it would be
almost impossible to happen. Yeah.
So we get this. There is in the middle of this some great, a great treasure for us to find in this book that is centered around suffering, the suffering of one man, and this back and forth, and then all that's going on. Why in the world might this particular story have become? Why might we put it here in the exilic prophets? Why would we think that this story would be so popular at this particular time in history?
Well, aren't they suffering? They're in exile.
Yeah.
They're away from their home. They don't even know who they are anymore. And I feel like that's like his grief is that.
Yeah.
I've lost everything. I don't have anything that was mine. Nothing's familiar. Nothing's traditional anymore.
Yeah.
My friends are stupid. And
do you think his wife's suffering is affecting his position?
Well, there's this guy that I know that he says if your wife has a problem, then you have a problem. He doesn't always live by that.
Yeah.
But he says it.
Sounds like a smart guy sometimes.
When he lives by it, he's very smart.
Yeah. So tell me, because Job hasn't experienced the pain and suffering, if the Midrash is correct, and Dinah is his wife. Dinah, in her Hebrew home with dad and brothers all around, is violated, and the perception of safety has all fallen apart.
Well, and then not to mention, just a little side note, if Joseph is her brother, the whole drama of that ordeal with him, their own family turning on their family member. They saved her, but what about the brother? And
if I heard, so she's dealing with this. I was in this place, and
so what's safe at that point?
Exactly, where is safe?
Yeah.
And has learned to develop this identity of safety around Job because he has all of this provision, has kept her safe, has all these kids, and spends time with them.
And he's an upright man.
And he's an upright man, and he's doing seems very similar to Boaz.
Mm-hmm. Like he's redeeming her.
Yeah, this redemption, and then now all of a sudden,
it's all stripped away.
It's all stripped away again, and she's reliving all of this hurt and pain from the past. And good chance she's struggling with what is safe now again. And this place of comfort that he's always had, where he has created this place of safety between the two of them in their relationship, now he's struggling and trying to find safety, and he doesn't have another safety net.
Right.
So there's so much here. And really, in exile, most of these Hebrew people are dealing with this at the same time. They've been separated from their home, where God was supposed to protect them, and whether they were doing what was right or not, like, they got carried off, and that wasn't safe, and now they're in this distant place, and they're trying to figure out how to just survive. And so what do we do with suffering? What do we do with the middle of it? And this main chiasm is a 25-part chiasm. 25 pericopes come together to form this chiasm, and the dead center is where?
You said Job 28.
Job chapter 28. And Chelsea's going to read it for us.
And just so happens to be titled, Wisdom is God's Gift.
So let's see this treasure that lies at the center of all of this suffering. What is it? What is the main thing, main idea here? Go for it. Maybe.
Don't interrupt.
Maybe not.
Just don't interrupt. Surely there is a mine for silver, and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the earth, and copper is smelted from ore. Man puts an end to darkness and searches every recess for ore in the darkness and the shadow of death. He breaks open a shaft away from people. In places forgotten by feet, they hang far away from men. They swing to and fro. As for the earth, from it comes bread, but underneath it is turned up as by fire. Its stones are the source of sapphires, and it contains gold dust. The path no bird knows, nor has the falcon's eye seen it. The proud lions have not trodden it, nor has the fierce lion passed over it. He puts his hand on the flint. He overturns the mountains at the roots. He cuts out channels in the rocks, and his eye sees every precious thing. You put your microphone up. I just assumed you were going to stop me.
After verse 11.
He dams up the streams from trickling. What is hidden, he brings forth to light.
So this is all the capabilities of man.
How do you get that?
This is out of the voice of Job. He's talking about all the things that man has been able to accomplish. Man, at this point, he says, is able to accomplish turning over a mountain, like legitimately moving a mountain to get to its roots, which are precious metals and precious jewels, and able to, like, Job says that man is able to access parts of the earth that birds can't get to, that lions can't get to, that animals' feet haven't trodden on. Like, people are so capable. They are able to find things that animals have no other animal has any interest in. Like, what other animal has an interest in mining gold and creating precious things out of it? Is there any other animal on the face of the planet that does that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is there any other is there any animal or creation in all of God's creation that seeks out and mines out precious stones and recreates their living environment to make it more comfortable?
No.
That creates machinery, complex machinery, to make their life easier, to create light out of darkness. There's no other creation on the earth that does these things. And this is what Job is talking about. All the capabilities of man. And then verse 12.
But where can wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Man does not know its value, nor is it found in the land of the living. The deep says, it is not in me, and the sea says, it is not with me. It cannot be purchased for gold, nor can silver be weighed for its price. It cannot be valued in the gold of Ophir. What is that?
Ophir.
Okay. Cannot be valued in the gold of Ophir, in precious onyx or sapphire. Neither gold nor crystal can equal it, nor can it be exchanged for jewelry of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or quartz, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be valued in pure gold. From where, then, does wisdom come? And where is the place of understanding? It is hidden from the eyes of all living, and concealed from the birds of the air. Destruction and death say, we have heard a report about it with our ears.
So the first 11 verses talk about all that man can do. Mm-hmm. And the next 11 verses, 12 through 22, what does it say? It talks about
they don't know what wisdom is. Like, they can find all of those other things, but wisdom is worth more than all of that.
Yes. Out of all the things that we can do, all the things that we can create, we can't track down wisdom. Mm-hmm. And nothing that we can create, none of the precious metals and precious jewels that we can mine and get our hands on can purchase. Matter of fact, it says that the sea and the waves and the darkness and the sky and the earth all reply, it's not here. Mm-hmm. Can't find it here. You can't find it among the land of the living, it says.
Right.
And even...
But destruction and death say they've
But
heard
destruction
a report
and death say we've heard a rumor about it. Mm-hmm. With our ears. So what is the treasure that we're looking for in the middle of this understanding of what is suffering? Why is man suffering? Why is man pursuing? Because man's pursuing all of these things that the world says is of value and can exchange for all the things that you want. One of the fastest growing... I have to jump on a soapbox right now because one of the fastest growing things in our culture right now is people making a living exchanging nothing of value but getting paid for it.
You mean influencing?
Influencing is one. Memes, creating content creators. One of those, the fastest growing content creating platforms. One of the fastest growing content creation platforms in the U.S. is OnlyFans.
I don't even know what that is.
It's terrible. It's practically people getting paid to take their clothes off.
Oh, that's why I don't know what that is.
It is...
Why do you know what that is?
Okay.
Let's call him out here.
Ben Shapiro did a whole conversation about this. This is where we're at right now in our country. The fastest growing income source for young people, especially young women, is OnlyFans. It is an affront to decency. And it is being celebrated that they grew. What is the statement that Shapiro said? That last year that platform grew by like 200 million subscribers. And by 5 million content creators. That's how they say it. So 5 million people started selling pictures of themselves, inappropriate pictures of themselves, for other people to have access to. And to be able to download and be able to... And
so this is legal pornography? Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, that's
yes.
Awful.
And when we start down those type of roads, there's nothing that can be found there.
Right.
There's nothing that's being added. And this is one of the things that happens in that process is we devalue the the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And the commitment that it takes to build it. And there's this pursuit of wisdom and understanding and knowledge that is inherent with the hardship of life and the hardship of two becoming one, and then them multiplying by adding children to their household. That this type of activity, and this type of the type of society that the United States has become and is becoming, devalues the pursuit of wisdom and devalues the time of suffering, because we find ourselves in suffering not because of what we can and can't chase after or what we can and can't mine and get a hold of, because we can get a hold. There is no limit to the way that we can get access to things of value. There's no limit to it. If you have a brain and you have an idea, you can probably figure out how to either turn your physical work or what you can create or what you can do into a paycheck of some kind. The challenge is, are we willing to do those type of things through the hardship? Will we fight through the pain and suffering that is normal in life? And in order to get through hardship and pain and suffering, it's going to take more than being able to chase down something of value. We're going to have to be able to find some wisdom. We're going to have to be able to chase down wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Yes, if we're going to get through it. But all those things that we have, all that content that's created, all of the work that is done, all of the trades that people do that create a paycheck or something of value for them, it can't buy wisdom. And it can't be found on the earth. So what's the answer? What does verse 23 through 28 say?
God understands its way and he knows its place. For he looks to the ends of the earth and sees under the whole heavens, to establish a weight for the wind and apportion the waters by measure. When he made a law for the rain and a path for the thunderbolt, then he saw wisdom and declared it. He prepared it. Indeed, he searched it out. And to man he said, Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding.
This is the lack that is in our society. This is the challenge. In all of this story, this is the center. This particular verse is the dead center, the back end of this 13th out of 25 pericopes, chiasms, that all come together. This is the center chiasm of the 25 chiasms. This is the central focus of this book. That man can do all the things, can chase down all the things, can find value where nobody ever thought possible. Nobody ever dreamed that this is possible, that you can make money doing this. But in all that, you can't buy wisdom. Wisdom comes from
the fear of the Lord.
Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to turn away from evil is understanding. Those two things go together. Fearing God and honoring God with our life, that's wisdom. But living it out and turning away from evil and saying, I know that that is right according to the world's standards, but it's not acceptable according to God's standards, so I'm turning and I'm going the other way. This is where our world struggles. This is where the people in exile who are going through hardship and suffering and trying to figure out what is going on. How do I continue on? What is the path? It is fearing God and turning from evil. So there is a great, great treasure here in the book of Job, and there's so much more here. I encourage you to continue to search it out. The book of Job is incredible. It is a great story that we can learn so much from, and something that I just want to reiterate here. We are not diving in and like line by line walking through the Bible, but we are systematically walking through the scripture and trying to help us understand the perspective of what's going on and the backstory and the importance to lead us into, in our own time, diving into the Word and it being more clear and more understandable in our own life. And this is the, what do we call them? The big idea of the book of Job. We're going to use, the one word we're going to use is perspective. That this is a perspective that allows us in the middle of our hardship, in the middle of our suffering, to continue forward. And so here we are continuing forward with this perspective from Job. Come back and join us. Corey and Angela Hogan will be here on Sunday morning. You will not want to miss them.